Kia ora, Helen Brahms here, coming to you live from Surprise in Arizona. Hope you're having a super fantastic sparkling day. Welcome to Porchlight Letters podcast number 2259. Tonight we're talking about seeds once planted. I have to say, the software I use to do this is called Restream. And I put in there, it goes live on Facebook and it goes live onto YouTube at the same time. But whenever I schedule the podcast in advance, it drops Facebook and only leaves YouTube. Isn't that interesting? So I have to add Facebook back in before I can hit the go live button. But anyway, that's not what we're here to talk about tonight. I just thought it was kind of interesting that happens. Just one of those things. So tonight is episode 2 of volume 24. Volume 24 being Harvest of the Heart. And episode 2 is Seeds Once Planted. Every seed we plant, whether it is a dream, a conversation, or a small act of kindness, has the potential to grow into something meaningful. Some take root quickly, while others rest in the dark for a while before quietly stirring to life. Reminds me of bamboo. Isn't it is it bamboo that you like water for like 3 to 5 years and all of a sudden it just goes? That takes a lot of patience. So that's quite. Tonight we reflect on the seeds we have sown through our choices, our care, and our courage to begin again. And what it teaches us is that every gesture, no matter how small, plants a seed of impact. Growth is really instant because patience is part of the process. And if you grow bamboo, it is definitely part of the process. Patience, absolutely. We could be like sometimes we're like bamboo, where we just hide in the darkness for a little while, just doing our thing until it's time for us to go, hello world, here I am. Yes. So some seeds we plant for others will bloom long after we have moved on. Most definitely. Absolutely, totally get that one. There are seeds that we plant that we leave as a legacy. And again, they are like bamboo. They sit there quietly waiting for their moment to sprout out into the spotlight and go, hello world, I'm still here. What we nurture reveals what we value most. And what happens when we recognize that the future is built on the intentions we set today? We trust that even unseen growth is still growth. We see how kindness and consistency create lasting change. We tend to our dreams without demanding instant harvests. Because dreams take a while. Dreams are not instant. No. You see all these people all the time. It's they've had overnight success. No, they haven't. They have been like the bamboo seeds. They have been nurturing away under the soil, doing all that back work and everything else and everything that they need to do to get ready. And then boom, they come out on the world stage and suddenly people talk about instant success. No, there's been a lot of hard work that has gone into that moment of instant success. So next time you think somebody's had instant success, have a closer look. What were they doing? They didn't just wake up one morning and go, well, here's my fantastic idea and it's an instant success and now I'm a millionaire or a billionaire, whichever way you want to put it. It doesn't happen that way. I'm sorry, because you don't see all the work that's the seeds that they have planted and that they have been nurturing and growing and just quietly there in the background till it was time for them to sprout out and go, hello world, how are you? Anyway. How we carry it forward, revisit the seeds you have planted and see what is ready to bloom. Sometimes you've got to tend to them and then you just got to leave them alone, let them do their own thing. Let them germinate and whatever else they do underneath the soil there, getting ready to spring. And, think of also too, another seed could be something like a caterpillar inside the chrysalis. And then the butterfly and that beautiful butterfly appears. That butterfly was not an overnight success. It was a lot of hard work for that little caterpillar to go through to become that beautiful butterfly. So remember that. There's a lot of work going on behind the scenes that we don't know about. Release what has served its season and make room for new growth. This is going and decluttering and weeding the garden. I'm don't know why I'm going to start using gardening metaphors. I have no idea when it comes to gardens. I don't know what grows in what spot and what does well, what doesn't. And sometimes I don't know the difference between the weed and the plant. I have been known to pull some plants out thinking that they were weeds. Yes. Which is my mother's going to have a task and a half when I buy a house down in New Zealand with a garden. Yeah, my dad's probably just going to sit there and just shake his head. Keep watering your values with daily actions. And this is whatever your daily actions are. It could be meditation. It could be your quiet time of prayer or just mindfulness. It could be journaling. It could be sitting there and just being present as the sun rises above the horizon and you're listening to all the birds. I can't wait to hear the birds in New Zealand. Oh, it's going to be so fun. I still have a lot of stuff to do before I get there, though. Yes. Talk about seeds being planted. I have a lot of seeds being planted to get me to New Zealand. And there's a lot of weeding going on right now as I declutter and get rid of stuff that no longer serves a purpose in my life and get it ready for somebody else's life. So yeah, there's a lot of hard work going into that. And I suddenly thought the other day, I thought maybe I should get an organizer to come in here and get this, just let them take over and get it done. Yes, I know I still have to have input on some stuff. Remember that not every seed was meant to sprout in your lifetime. There may be seeds that you plant and you keep nurturing them during this lifetime. You're nurturing them. You're giving them the fertilizer they need. You're giving them the water that they need, the hydration. You've got the right amount of sunshine for them, everything else. And yet you might have to pass in order for it to sprout forth and be recognized. It could be it could be some bamboo seeds that you pass before they sprout forth and go, hello, world. For the legacy connection, the seeds we plant often become part of someone else's harvest. A lesson shared, a kind word, or a moment of encouragement can carry forward far beyond our sight. Legacy begins in those quiet acts of planting. So now we have your four reflection questions. Number one, what seeds have you planted recently, intentionally, or without realizing it? Because sometimes we plant seeds without even realizing it. And it could be the fact that you're out walking around and you pass somebody and you give them a smile and say, good morning. I did that this morning. I had to go to the post office in person and then found out that they weren't going to do what I needed them to do because I was going to the wrong country. So here was an interesting thing. I went on the USPS website to put in my change of address, getting ahead of the curve, making sure I get everything done in time, and it's on my list. And it said I couldn't do it because I'm moving internationally. So I have to appear in person at the post office to register my change of address. So I spend 15 minutes driving to the nearest post office. I walk in, nobody's at the counters. Everybody's just left. There's two tellers open. One's working with a package and one's not doing anything, but she says good morning and welcomes me over. And I said, yes. I said I was on the website last night trying to log my change of address that's coming up, and it wouldn't let me because my address is going to be an international because I'm moving out of the country. And she goes, oh, which country are you moving to? I went, New Zealand. She says, oh, you don't need to worry about that. She says, we only worry about it if it's Canada because that's the only place we forward mail to. And then I got back in the car and I thought, I'm busy driving home and I'm like, but that's not what the website said. The website said if you're going to a foreign country, you have to go in and register it because it affects your electoral rolls and everything. And I'm like, well, how do I do that now? So my plan is I have another post office that I found is actually closer. But according to, the reviews of post offices are horrible. The ones that I have seen for around this area, they are 1 or 2 stars. That's it. On all these Yelp reviews. So I'm going to go and try the other one that's closer to me and go, hey, look, on here it says because I'm moving internationally, I still have to come in and register. Even if you can't forward my mail, I still have to register my change of address because it affects the electoral rolls, and because the electoral rolls then affects getting called for jury service and all of that. And because I said to the woman, well, then what happens to my mail if I get mail after I leave? It goes, oh, we just return it to sender. I say, unless somebody goes and shreds it or tosses it in their recycle bin and can't be bothered putting on there, not at this address anymore. So maybe I'll leave a nice little note for the mail person that comes and delivers my mail at my mailbox, and just say, hey, tried to do this at the post office and they refused, but I need to let you know that as of this date, I am no longer going to be at this address. And I know you can't forward my mail, but can you please make sure it gets returned to sender? Or do something like that. Because I said when I went in person, they refused to take it because I wasn't going to Canada. So I thought that was interesting. Anyway, and so on the way into the post office this morning, there was this lady coming out, and so I smiled at, and she caught my eye and just like looked at me, and so I just smiled and said good morning, and she was like, "Oh, morning." Like she stopped and just looked at me, so I said good morning and gave her a smile, and then she kind of like shook herself out of whatever little thing she was in, and went morning and just carried on. It's always nice to do that. And even though the person at the post office, she was nice, there's a little work that could be done there, but she was still pleasant and not rude. So I just dialed it up. The sparkles got dialed up. So anyway, so what seeds have you planted, and even, intentionally? And so there's times that you can say somebody's having a crappy day. So we just dial up the sparkles a little bit. Question 2, that was question 1. Question 2, how do you nurture growth when you cannot see progress yet? You just got to keep at it. I mean, take, for example, bamboo seeds. I don't know how often you have to water them, fertilize them, and all of that, but you just have to trust the process. Divorce the results, trust the process. Okay, always keep that in mind. Trust the process. So just keep nurturing. Even if you can't see anything, trust the process. Number 3, who in your life has planted seeds that still influence you today? Oh my gosh, my grandparents, my great-grandparents, all the elders of the family that I got to know when I was growing up. There was Granny and Pop, who were my great-grandparents. They were the only set of 8 great-grandparents that were still alive that I actually got to meet and visit a few times. Then there's my 4 grandparents. Got to hang out with them a lot and have fun with them and that sort of thing. And of course, all my great aunt and uncles. There's my grandparents and their siblings. I got to know all my great aunts and uncles. I got to know my parents, who are still with us, along with their siblings who are still with us, and all the cousins that came along. So there's been a lot of people that have planted seeds in my life just from my family, from my heritage, from my ancestry, that still is fertilizing today. There's a great grandfather who I've had a lot of people in my family serve in the military. So why did I end up in the military? Why did I have that sense of duty? My dad was a fireman for a few years before he became a policeman. My mum was a nurse. So there's that act of service that has been planted in our families over the years. It's been planted into our DNA that this is who we are, this is what we do. It's the same with the storytelling. I'm so screwed on the storytelling. My dad's side has some amazing storytellers, from my grandmother to my grandfather to their siblings, especially the women. So they've all planted seeds, and even my mum's sisters are very good storytellers as well. I love listening to them tell stories. So I have a lot of family members, not just in my direct line, but in the side branches as well, where the siblings are, and the aunts and uncles and the great aunts and uncles, where they have all planted those seeds in me. My great grandfather, who served in World War I, he was served in World War I in New Zealand. And then when World War II came around, he was the captain at Fort Balance, which was the fort that overlooked the entrance to Wellington Harbour. And he was the captain there, and he was in the army. And he had a business that repaired. He was a gunsmith. He was a locksmith. I don't remember what else. But I learned years later, because I never got to meet him, but I learned years later that my grandfather also knew how to pick locks. He had learned it from his father. It's the only thing I can think of. And I found out even after that as well. I found my cousin and I were sitting talking. We're about 2 months. She's 2 months older than me. Exactly. We're both born on the same day of the month, the same date of the month, just 2 months apart. And so we were talking about some of the pranks that have been pulled over the years on the newlyweds, when the aunts and uncles got married and that sort of stuff. And so she was telling me about one, and I could never figure out who did that. And it was her, and I think it was her and her mum that went over and did that. I said, well, how did they get into the house? And she says, apparently granddad taught mum how to pick locks. I don't know if that was true, or maybe it was true or not, but I also don't know if they also had access to the keys as well. So, yeah. So those seeds have been planted. I wonder if I can pick locks. I've never tried. Maybe I'll take that up as a hobby. Find myself some locks and see if I can pick them. I have no idea what I'm doing. Why would I even want that skill? Maybe I'll get locked out of a house one day and I need to get into my house. Maybe. It would be used for good only. So those are some of the seeds that have been planted, things that have been planted from your, and look back and see what skills have you got that an ancestor of yours may have had. What sense of duty or service or thought patterns, storytelling, all of that sort of stuff that you may have inherited from your ancestors who are no longer alive, no longer with us in physical, but they are with us in spirit. How many of them have planted the seeds of storytelling or service or sense of duty or patriotism or family throughout their lives that is still germinating and growing today? It could be eight generations down and we're still doing that same thing. So think about that. Number 4, what new seed of possibility is asking for your attention? I like that one. What new seed of possibility is asking for your attention? Yeah, I got that one sorted. Anyway, our closing thought for this evening is seeds remind us that every beginning matters. You may not see the results today, but growth is already happening in the dark beneath the surface. Trust the process. And with that, we are out of here. Go out, have a super fantastic, sparkling evening, and we'll catch